Luka is working on his 9th straight 25-5 game, 4th longest streak franchise history. About a minute left in the first half. Luka just drops Alperen Şengün and then finds Dorian Finney-Smith. We're finna take another look at this as he just puts the Turkish fella on the deck. And you said it, normally you have to wait till Thanksgiving to see a turkey get cooked like that. That was a good line from Gary. Third quarter, it's Bron. 7 straight games under 25 points, 2nd longest streak of his career, but you'll see he gets it done on the defensive end, maybe saving his legs. In the corner, Vincent from Finney-Smith. Each had 20 points, each made 6 threes. LeBron backing down his defender. Right here, a little give and go with Austin Reeves. 16 points for the old head. Lakers go up by 6, then Luka's going to just go ahead and, who says drive-ins are dead, man? That gets to the rim with a quickness. 20 points to go with those 9 dimes. And then Bron blocking Alperen Şengün. Held the Rockets under 100 points after 6 games, averaging 124.5 points given up. Lakers got one they had to have. Senior NBA writer Brian Windhorst is with us here on SportsCenter AM. Brian, Lakers have a 2-game lead there in that battle, the 4-5 seed. Right now they're firmly in the 4th spot, which means they would host in the first round. What did you see from LA last night?
Yeah, you could argue this was their biggest win, or at least their most important win of the season to this point, because Houston comes in winning 12 out of 13. And look, I'm never going to say that Luka and LeBron would have trouble winning a road game in the playoffs, but this Lakers team is 29-9 at home and 17-20 on the road. Getting a top 4 seed is hugely important to them, and this victory gives them a 2-game cushion on both Memphis and Golden State, and they have the tiebreaker in both, so it's essentially a 3-game cushion. And you mentioned the defense. I know we're always going to focus on the scoring. I know the highlights are going to focus on the shot making. The defense is what drives this Lakers opportunity, especially if they can get one more and get up to the number 3 seed. They also have the tiebreaker on the Nuggets. And if they could avoid the Thunder in the first round, you'd really be cooking here. And I would want to point out, Dorian Finney-Smith has been overshadowed by the Luka trade. Dorian Finney-Smith has been great for the Lakers. He had his best offensive game so far in the purple and gold, 6 threes last night.
There's a word there that Brian used that I want to remember. We're going to file it away for maybe a week, maybe 3 weeks from now. You said opportunity. It wasn't just playoff push. It was opportunity for the Lakers. And I think we're talking about big picture opportunities in the Western Conference. Lakers hosting the Warriors on Thursday. Windy, stand by. Gary, what do you got?
Speaking of that picture in the Western Conference, what about the Memphis Grizzlies, who are the 5th seed out west, but they just fired their head coach, and now they get to host Jason Tatum and the Celtics, who are red hot on the road, 5-0 on this particular road trip. They've only lost 7 games on the road all season. The ball movement, poetry. Drew Holiday to KP, that's an easy finish. Celtics up by 5 at the half, and then Tatum, got it. 25 points, 14 boards for him. Derek White, corner 3. Celtics took 62 threes in this game last night. They hit 21 of them. Tie a franchise record for road wins in a season at 32. They get the win. SGA and the Thunder hosting the Bulls. Shea, Isaiah Hartenstein, Isaiah Joe, got it. Thunder were up by 34 at the half off the giddy turnover of former Thunder. SGA, coast to coast. Oklahoma's landlocked, but he's going coast to coast. Doing it on both ends, and then Thunder up by 41. 145-117, your final. SGA, 27 points, 12 assists. That a season high. This, Windy, back to answer this simple question. Celtics and Thunder have gone a combined 29-2 in March. Windy, are these 2 teams on a collision course to meet in the finals?
Yes.
Yeah.
And look, I just want to point something out. We are now in April, and this is no joke. The Thunder have not had their 13th loss yet. That means 70 wins is still in play. Now, I don't think this is a priority for them, nor do I think they'll maybe get it because they do have some tough games left. The point is, this team is a winning machine. They are 130-27 in the last 2 seasons. And I know that they had a disappointing week in the second round last year. You take that out, you can't touch this team. They're 18-2 since the break. And then you go look at Boston. Guys, I don't know if you've heard, but the Celtics have a bit of a history. Well, no time in the history of their organization have they ever gone 6-0 on a road trip. Yep. Never. That's what they just did. That road trip was so long, they have a different owner when they came back than when they went out on it, and they were untouched throughout it. They have been absolutely untouchable. Their ball movement and the way that they are operating together is incredible. Chris, probably the most relevant thing with them, Kristaps Porzingis is the strongest he's looked all year. When he is playing well, I don't know if you can beat him 4 out of 7. I respect the Cavs. I respect the Lakers. I respect these other teams that are going to make things interesting. But right now, it's Boston and OKC and then a long distance between everybody else.
Those numbers just absolutely pop off the screen. The Celtics' only loss in the month of March was to the Thunder. Brian Windhorst dropping knowledge this morning on SportsCenter. SJ and those aforementioned Thunder, part of our NBA Double Dip tomorrow night when they host the Pistons, those feisty Pistons. Before that,
3-1 is our teammate CJ McCollum, of course, guard and 20-point-per-game scorer in his career. And the other one is former number 1 overall pick Zion Williamson, who now, in his career, projecting out the games he will now miss the rest of the season, has missed more games than he's played in. He has played in 214 of 472 possible games, and he's missed 258 of them. Oof. He has played 30 games or fewer, including this year, exactly 30, in 4 seasons. He missed 1 season in full, but here's his career so far. Games played: 24, 61, 29, 70, 30. For those who are unaware, 82 games in an NBA regular season. Now, interestingly enough, when he does play, he's excellent. 24.7 points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 4.3 assists per game, and most notably, his field goal percentage of 58.9 through 5 seasons is the best of anyone ever through 5 seasons with 15-plus attempts per game on average, which tells you that he only takes the shots that he should take, right? We have so many players around this league that take shots because they count for more if they make them, but they shouldn't actually take them because they don't make them. Zion Williamson, to his credit, takes shots that he makes. This is obviously a disaster yet again. All of that said, would you trade for him? If the New Orleans Pelicans said, you know what, this is just not working here, and you were the general manager of a number 1 team, would you go and trade for him? Or would you say, he's been the biggest disappointment at number 1 overall that I don't want to touch him?
Well, I don't know if he's the biggest disappointment, but he has been a disappointment relative to where he was picked and the expectations that we had for him coming out of college. But I think I'd roll the dice on him. I know that he's obviously been inconsistent. The injuries are a problem. There's a lot there with Zion, but maybe going to a different place would spark him in a different way. I would at least like to see what the results would be elsewhere before I completely threw in the towel on him, because there is, when healthy, and I know that's not all the time and we don't have the consistency there, you do see sparks of something that could be productive for your organization.
If you're New Orleans, I don't know that the value proposition is there in trading him.
But your franchise is just Zion doesn't play enough. That's what are you known for?
Yeah.
What's your identity?
You have to turn the page.
Sure, I get that, but it's not like it's a contract that you can't move off of, and that's a hell of a lot of cap space that you can open up if and when you decide to get rid of him. So it's an asset. The contract is an asset, regardless of what he ends up being, what he ends up doing on the court moving forward. I think the only question is it worth it to see it through, to see if he can get on the other side of these injuries, as opposed to shipping them off for pennies on the dollar and not necessarily getting something back that's going to help you build your team.
But let me ask you this. As a former athlete, as somebody that played 11 years in the league, in the NFL, are there certain guys in certain cities that just they tried and it's not going to – not at cities, teams. Because I'm not blaming New Orleans as a city, obviously, on this. I'm blaming the partnership between these two parties, Zion Williamson and the Pelicans, with all the intents to make it work and all of the goals to make it work. I don't believe that there were any goals to not make it work. At some point, you just sit there and say, these two are not going to work together, but they could work apart. Like, is that part? I understand what you're saying, right? The contract would allow for you to keep them and maybe get rid of them on your terms and open up cap space, et cetera, et cetera. But all of that said, at what point is the point of no return? Like, it clearly doesn't work with these two parties together. And there are many franchises and many players that have that. They're just not going to work together. They're not at that point yet after all these games.